I've been sitting here trying to think of an intro to this video, but I'm just upset. The last time you saw me sitting here wearing a basketball jersey, just super excited about March Madness, because I thought I had a pretty good understanding of what was going to go down while creating my first March Madness NCAA bracket. But obviously, that was wrong. But in tonight's ASMR video, we are going to be doing our second chance, yes, a second chance Sweet 16 bracket week to make new choices, new decisions, and see if we can finally make a 100% perfect bracket. Let's see if I can have another shot at it. Also, of course, make sure before we start this video, you like the video. If you do like the video, it really helps out the channel so very much, and it even helps out this video to reach new people and to just, show some support. And if you are enjoying March Madness, make sure you like the video as well. And of course, comment down below your own picks, your new picks, predictions, maybe upsets you see happening, your favorite NCAA player so far, how your bracket, your original bracket is doing. Let me know down in the comments. Here we are on the official NCAA March Madness app, and you can actually pull up here the men's TC second chance side of their, app or website. You can do both either way. Sweet 16, the east side of the bracket. The teams that are left are UConn going up against maybe a potential rival, because this is maybe a potential revenge game. It's a rerun of UConn versus San Diego State, which actually was played out last year. And we have the 3-seeded Illinois. I forget the name of their team, but it's Illinois going up against Iowa State. Then we have the west side of the bracket with North Carolina going up against Alabama, and Clemson having a pretty solid win against Baylor to make it here. They're going up against the Arizona Wildcats. Then for the South Division, or not the South Division, just the South bracket, you know what I mean? We have Houston going up against the Duke Blue Devils and NC State, which I did say at the start of my last video, you have to pick one double-digit team to make the Sweet 16. It happens every single year. This year, it happened to be NC State going up against Marquette. We have the Midwest Division, Midwest side of the bracket. I did it again. Purdue against Gonzaga, and Creighton against Tennessee. UConn against San Diego State. You guys know that San Diego is one of my favorite cities. I love visiting San Diego. Was born kind of close to San Diego as well, so maybe it'd be kind of nice to root for this San Diego State team. They got here by, defeating, was it Yale? Taking a look at the stats side by side, of course UConn is just a god-tier basketball team when you look at them on paper, and even not on paper. UConn's been destroying their teams. They blew out Stetson. Their first round matchup, of course, they won versus 16 seed by 40 points. And then a closer seeded matchup of 1 versus a 9 at Northwestern blew them out by nearly 20 points. They have just looked super dominant. In that game against Northwestern, they shot 54% from the field. They had a dog water of a three-point shooting clinic, shooting 13% from 3, 70% from the free throw line. They dominated a 9 seed by nearly 20 points on one of the worst shooting percentages I've seen in college basketball, at least in this tournament, and washed them. It is insane that a team that can be that dominant still while struggling on such a strict sort of stat that we need in college basketball, and to beat other good teams, you need to be a good three-point shooting team. They didn't need to do it, and they cleaned up pretty well. There's nothing I've seen so far that has shown that UConn is wishy-washy. I think they're just so dominant, especially also having a time of rest. If this was a day or two after this San Diego State win, that could have been a very scary game, especially how good of a shooting number San Diego State just had. With this time and breakaway, I think San Diego State is going to psych themselves out trying to defeat possibly the best team in college basketball right now. I think UConn takes the win. Then we have Illinois going up against Iowa State, which this has actually been a very close matchup that a lot of people are quite wishy-washy on. You can actually take a look at the people's bracket, or the people's most picked of each, matchup that we have going on here. And this is down the split, and I think this game will be very close. I think it's going to come down to free throws and crunch time statistics like that, like 3-point shooting, offensive rebounds. What team can have just more chances to score the ball? Illinois looked pretty dominant, yet Morehead State beating them 85-69, and then their number 11 seeded matchup, they beat them 89-63. With Iowa State kind of having a back and forth game a little bit there with Washington State, which in my opinion didn't look that strong. I actually had them losing in the first round against Drake. They surprised me. Shout out to Washington State there, another Pacific Northwest team going out there, but they looked quite beatable against a Washington State team that wasn't really, in my opinion, that great. I'm actually picking the upset of a 3 against a 2. I'm picking Illinois to beat Iowa State, number 1 seeded team here in North Carolina against Alabama, starting out my west side of the bracket. This could be a good game, but I also could just see UNC completely obliterating Alabama in this game also. UNC has also looked like a very dominant number 1 seeded team, pretty much cleaning house with Michigan State, and even their first game of the tournament looked very good. Alabama has had their ups and downs, but nothing has really taken my eyes off of UNC winning this matchup. Of course, it's March Madness, anything can happen, but in my brain, I'm going to pick UNC. Going to be the matchup of Clemson against Arizona. Clemson had a pretty rough game against Baylor, a 72 win to a 64 point score to Baylor team. Very low scoring for both these teams, who are pretty decent, high scoring teams. Clemson also beat New Mexico by 20 points, which is quite impressive. Arizona had almost a close game against State and started to pull away, winning that game 78-68. And their first game against Long Beach State, they took care of business pretty well. I am very intrigued to see what happens here. Now, this is actually going to be played at Crypto.com Arena in Los Angeles, California, quite close to Arizona, you could say. I think this will be a home-style game for Arizona. I think it's going to favor them heavily. And also, looking to the horizon, that the upcoming games that are going to be played in Arizona, their home state, those games are going to be so passionate, full of Arizona Wildcat fans. They want these games so bad. They want to make it far so bad. I know Clemson looked really good against Baylor, but Baylor also just had maybe one of their worst games of their entire season. They melted down on 3-point shooting. They whiffed it on free throws. If Arizona can get that done and just have a very good defensive game, or even a solid one, I think they beat Clemson. I'm taking Arizona to win here. Moving down to my south side of the bracket with Houston against Duke. Houston had a game not that long ago. It was, I think, an overtime game against Texas A&M. That game, crazy, super high scoring game. Almost 200 points combined from both teams, going down as a 100-95 win to Houston. I was actually pretty interested because how the heck did Texas A&M score that many points? It's because they shot 45 free throws. Texas A&M shot nearly half of their points at the free throw line. Absolutely insane. I think that is the only reason why this game looked fairly close, is because Houston had a total of 28 fouls this game. That's a big no-no. That cannot happen again. I think that's the only reason why this game looked close. Houston had a 40-point win against Longwood. I think Duke, even though they had a very dominant win against James Madison, who a lot of people were actually hyping up in this year's March Madness tournament, beat them pretty convincingly. I think Duke is on a good run. I think if this game was, again, kind of like the other matchup we just talked about, was right after, a day or so after their last game, I think Duke could have done something here, but the fact that there's this long break, good timing to prep and everything, I think Houston takes it over against Duke. I think Houston's defense is going to be too much for them. This is not a James Madison team. I think this is going to be too much for Duke to handle, and Houston wins. Looking at the NC State versus Marquette game, again, the Cinderella team, Cinderella team that always makes it to the Sweet 16, the double digit. I think the Cinderella story runs out of luck here. I think Marquette is just too good of a program. spicy, but I don't think it's good enough to be there. I'm going to take number 2, Marquette, to end this Cinderella story run. We have Purdue going up against Gonzaga, which Gonzaga did pull up the upset, you could call it, against Kansas, which Kansas did not have their best player available in Kevin McCullough, which I actually didn't know about when I first made my video, my first March Madness bracket video. Probably should have checked the injury report before making that video, but yeah, Kansas was not playing at full strength. Gonzaga gets the dub there, and they are going up against Purdue, which, I'm not gonna lie, I did not have a lot of faith in Purdue going into this year's March Madness because they are Purdue. They never really perform all that well. They look like a severely different team than I've seen them before in the past, dominating by nearly 30 points against their first team in their first matchup, Grambling State, whatever, dominating Utah State 106-67 in a second round matchup. I thought that was a possible game that Purdue could have lost. Absolutely. No. Purdue looked dominant. I think that dominant play continues on. Purdue, the number 1 seeded team, makes it on to the next round. And then we have maybe my favorite game of this entire Sweet 16, the first round of this new second chance bracket, in Creighton going up against Tennessee. This is going to be a really good game. It might be back and forth the entire time. It might go into overtime. It's definitely more of an offense versus a defensive team, with Creighton being the defense, Tennessee being the offense. Obviously having Dalton Connect, maybe the best scorer left here in the NCAA March Madness tournament. If Tennessee can go off here and just have a killer of a game, I could definitely see Tennessee pulling out the win here. But I've been rolling with offense too much in my bracket ideas and making some videos. You guys know how I felt about Kentucky in my last video making my bracket, and look how that turned out. Not good at all. I'm done picking offense. We're picking defense this time. I think the better defensive team will win it. And I'm picking Creighton, another upset at the 3-2, to make it on to the Elite 8. Okay, I'm on the Elite 8 now. We have UConn going against Illinois. I don't think Illinois will be able to rough them up, have a good matchup against a team like UConn, who is just bigger, stronger, still a very good offensive team, a very good defensive team. They're just a good all-around team. I don't think Illinois even has like an upside to how this matchup would go. I know they are a good rebounding team, they're a good three-pointing team, but I still just don't think they have enough oomph to beat a team like UConn. Again, unless UConn has just a absolute stinker of a game. It will have to take a stinker for them to maybe even lose at all in this year's tournament. And I don't think Illinois will have that oomph to get over. I will be picking UConn to beat Illinois. Carolina against Arizona, I think, will be maybe the best matchup of the Elite 8. I think this is going to be a super close game, overtime game, a back-and-forth game. I think this will be very interesting. Now, again, I think these games are played in LA, and I think the Final Four is played in Arizona. And again, I think Arizona might be eyeing a Final Four spot. They want to feel that atmosphere of playing almost a home court advantage against a big-time team, potentially, in a next round matchup. God, do I really want to do this? Oh, you guys know Arizona's my favorite college basketball team. Carolina's really good too, but do I really want to pick another number 1 seed to move on? I don't think I do. It's March Madness. The first number 1 seed team goes down. Arizona moves on to play UConn in Arizona. We do have Houston going against Marquette, which could be a very fun matchup. And again, that Texas A&M game just left a very bad taste in my mouth with how this Houston team has looked to me. Again, them causing 28 fouls, 18 assists, which isn't too bad for a college basketball team, 35 rebounds for the entire game, 32% from 3. This Houston team definitely looked like it had a little scratch in the armor of how amazing this Houston team has looked this entire year for them. I think Arizona. It's a home court. Maybe it's a 60-40, 70-30 split on fans in the arena, and it is going wild for Arizona. If I know anything about Arizona basketball, when the lights are bright, they're sometimes too bright. With a team that doesn't really have a star player, I do know that, what's his name, Caleb Love is a really, really, really good player. He's not the kind of players that UConn has. UConn has won the national title last year. They are ready. They're made for the bright lights. I think this Arizona team might be asking a little bit too much and maybe biting off a little bit more than they can chew. I think this game could start out very fiery, very hustly, but I think that fire will burn very bright, but it'll burn out very fast. I'm going to take UConn over Arizona, and it may be a very scratch and claw style of win. Number 2, Marquette going up against Creighton. I talked about this in my first bracket making video, but as of right now, I think if Creighton can beat Purdue, that high of taking down a great team in Purdue, I think will carry them into a win against Marquette. And like I guessed in my first ever video, nothing has changed. I have UConn going up against Creighton for a revenge game potentially between these two teams that Creighton actually won the first matchup against them. Yeah, if you didn't know, the most recent matchup of UConn versus Creighton actually beat UConn 85-66 in a pretty monumental win. Again, I talked about it again in my first bracket making video. If you haven't seen that video, make sure you go ahead and check it out. And this potentially could be either a revenge game of UConn, showing them that that was a fluke game, they weren't ready or prepared. Their first matchup, UConn actually handled Creighton pretty well in that one, and they are just the bigger, better team. Or Creighton puts the smackdown on them again, beats them on the national championship game, showing them that they are truly better than them. And the last game that they played was no fluke. But as I'm sitting here, again, in the same position, still looking a bit down and out, because again, my first bracket did not do very well. Nothing has changed my mind about how I feel about UConn over Creighton. UConn winning the national championship again, back-to-back for the first time for a team since I think it was 2005, 2006 of the Florida, was it University of Florida? I think it was. I just have not seen a team that I think can beat them. Can it be Arizona on an Arizona court? Yes, I think that can happen. Can a team get very fiery like San Diego State again and shoot crazy three-point numbers and shut down UConn? Yes, I do. But it has to take such a monumental if for that to happen, and for all the other teams, I think it's just going to be way too much for them to handle, and that's why I think I just have UConn winning it all again, because it's just too much of an if. Yeah, so with that being said, that's my second chance bracket. UConn still winning it all against Creighton in the championship round. Could this be UConn, Purdue, Arizona, Purdue? Yes, I do think so. Could North Carolina somehow win it out, beat even a good, almost home court advantage Arizona, then go on to beat UConn? I think also as well, yes. Could Houston, as number 1 team, bounce back from their little shakiness there they had against Texas A&M? Absolutely yes. Like I stated earlier in the video, could all number 1 seeded teams make it to the Final Four? Absolutely yes. All these teams are so evenly balanced. It's insane. But I think UConn just has the edge over them. So that's what I'm going with. So I keep saying so. Thank you so much for watching tonight's video. Make sure again you do like tonight's video if you are enjoying March Madness. Enjoy this video, or even just to give your bracket a little extra luck. Make sure you thumbs up the video. And yeah, comment down your own picks, your own predictions, your new winner, maybe a player to look out for.